Okay, I repeat that last part. The reviewer does not see what data allow me to say it is clear here in that sentence. It is clear that becoming homosexual still increases the animal's hope that his family will be larger than average. He doesn't see what data allow the author me to say it is clear, and once again becoming homosexual does not change or ensure the presence of any genetic factor in female relatives. My reply to this comes now. There is no logical flaw. As an aside, as a part-time logician, I do not see what causation and statistics have to do with logic. The reviewer simply misunderstood the use of this or that action makes it more probable that. Nowhere did I by necessity claim that the agent, by choosing some action, changes the past, or more precisely, changes the existence or presence of the genetic factor leading to smoking and cancer, or to fecundity and homosexuality. We must, however, distinguish between various causal constellations here. I treat first the constellation suggested by Camperio-Ciani and the reviewer, namely that there is some maternally inheritable genetic factor causing both excessive female fecundity and male homosexuality, maybe some crazy about men gene. In that case, consider an agent who is or has become heterosexual. If among the causes of homosexuality is the one just mentioned, he is simply less likely to have inherited the crazy about men gene, than a fellow who is homosexual. The homosexual is more likely to have inherited the mad about the crazy about men gene, if it exists at all. The empirical evidence that this is based upon and that the reviewer claims is missing is simply Camperio-Ciani's result that female maternal relatives of gay males are more fecund than those of straight males, and that female maternal relatives of gay males give birth to more gay males than female maternal relatives of straight males. And so if you have a man who becomes homosexual, he will after that be a homosexual man, that is, belong to the homosexual sample group or be in a perfect condition to belong to it. And for that group, it simply holds that a member of that group is more likely to have inherited the genetic factor. What else may have made him choose being homosexual? This factor would be one explanation for it. If a man becomes heterosexual, he will after that be a heterosexual male, and thus he will be less likely to have inherited the crazy about men gene than a homosexual male. Maybe the absence of it has caused, among other things, his heterosexuality, a different gene. The gene was different, or there was another gene. Now, on the other hand, the reviewer bases his criticism on what decision theorists call causal decision theory, which states that rational actions are to be for the sake of what they cause, that is, according to sensible theories of causation, for the sake of the future. Some claim, however, that this is an arbitrary and in certain aspects mythical or magical view on how rational actions work in Homo sapiens. There is another evidential view on decision theory, according to which rational actions are to be for the sake of what they give evidence of or for. In this framework, the view that rational actions be for the sake of the future and not the past seems as arbitrary as the view that rational actions are to be for the sake of the East and not the West. To choose, for example, becoming homosexual simply provides probabilistic evidence that the crazy about men gene is present, and therefore, if you want to have the gene, or want to have some benefit, you choose. This is simply how human choices work. You choose homosexuality if such choices are possible. But this was the condition. Someone is undecided and seems capable of going either way, but also capable of emphasizing one way more than the other. And then the mechanisms that start working could bring about the state or the condition, the state of the world that he thinks is best for him. The reason causal decision theory can be regarded as magical or mythical in certain respects is that it is sometimes all too rigid and inflexible as far as causal constellations are concerned. One view of causal influencing is embraced, and if according to that view some choice cannot cause something the agent wants, the choice is left aside as an option or as a means of actively achieving what the agent wants to achieve. To speak clearly, the reviewer's criticism is valid only if the genetic factor theory, as presented by Camperio-Ciani and him or herself, is indeed valid. If some of the other possible causal constellations obtains, then it may be completely invalid. For example, if there is no genetic factor for crazy about men at all, but for example some simply male gay gene, not necessarily or so directly maternally inherited, then it could be the case that homosexuals actively, as prime movers here, contribute to the fecundity boost among their maternal female relatives. Camperio-Ciani's result does, to my knowledge, not rule out that possibility. And in that case, you can even legitimately understand this or that makes it more probable that, in the sense or in the way in which the reviewer misunderstood it, that is, of course, not as actively makes it more probable that the genetic factor is present, but as becoming homosexual actively makes it more probable that the females will be more fecund, just as the trait jumping off high buildings actively in the prime mover manner makes it more probable that you die early. Now, to put that in a nutshell, once you accept causal decision theory, you also accept a causal myth or story which has been told, or differently put, at a time when, as the reviewer himself or herself stated, the causal links of a correlation are not too obvious, as in the current case, there is too little reason to argue about decisions using a causal decision theory, even if it is, as I myself believe, better than the evidential